Hello, everyone, and welcome in to episode number 37 of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer. This show is created as a safe space where cancer survivors and cancer supporters come together to share their stories and connect, as well as find resources that provide healing, hope, and resilience. I am Tim Sohn, a 15-year cancer survivor, host of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer, and a live streaming producer and coach for impact-focused nonprofits, businesses, and entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for joining us. Please let us know where you're tuning in from and what is your connection to cancer. I so appreciate you being here. We want this to be a conversation. Also, we encourage you to connect with each other in the chat. Next up, I want to introduce our guest co-host for tonight. Known as the Queen of Engagement and named one of the top 50 most impactful people of LinkedIn, Nancy Barrows is a keynote speaker and coach who helps others understand the value and power of engagement and personal content on social media. Through her program, The Chick with the Tool Belt, Nancy helps others meet their highest personal and business potential. She is live every Wednesday and Saturday with Brian Schulman for their global award-winning shows What's Good Wednesday and Shout Out Saturday. Nancy has thrived through adversity and employs her experience to help others find their voice. By telling her story and creating the Radiating Real movement, she is making a positive impact and encouraging others to do the same. Nancy is also one of the people who inspired me to share my cancer story. And I need to share something with you guys very soon. But first, I want to bring Nancy on the stage with me right now. Hello, Nancy Barrows.
Hello, Tim Sohn. Hi, everyone. It's so wonderful being back with you all. Always an honor and a privilege.
Yes, it's so great to have you back on the show with me. And we do see you guys in the comments, and we're going to get to the comments in just a few minutes. First, I wanted to share a few pieces of news with you. And one of them has to do with the person who just came on the screen with me here. And that news is that Nancy is going to be the keynote speaker. I feel like I need a more official drum roll for the in-person Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer event that's coming up in Pennsylvania on September 10th. So
I am still overflowing with like joy and excitement and putting all together the fact that I'm going to be able to be a part of like this being in person. And that's like the magic that happens when we can be together in person. Beyond honored and humbled that you would ask for me to be there. And I'll find words eventually. It'll sink in enough where I can actually express myself using words like, somebody else might do. But thank you to you and to all of you who support here and have cheerleaded me on, welcome me here graciously and cheerleaded me on all over the place. You guys are amazing. I'm so looking forward to meeting people in person. Like,
yes. Me too.
And it will only be the second time that Tim and I get to spend time together in person, which is crazy. This is someone I talk to every day. Yes, Bob Feathers, Nancy in 3D. I do exist.
Yes. And you guys, the reason that I really wanted Nancy to be the keynote speaker is that the way that I ended up sharing my cancer story is that I had been surviving with cancer for 15 years, and I had never intended on on sharing my cancer story. And Nancy had created this movement called the Radiating Real movement, and then a number of other things happened as well. A 35-year survivor of acute leukemia, Steve Sullivan, had created a video that inspired me, and Nancy and Jenny Gold had invited me on her show, and all these things happened in a period of time. And Radiating Real was the first thing that happened in that journey. So Nancy was the first person that I thought of when it came to the keynote. And so thank you for saying yes, Nancy Barrows. I can't wait.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Really, like, my toes aren't touching the ground. It's like I'm so excited. I'm like floating just a little bit off the ground.
Yes, I can't wait. Also, just a reminder that the in-person event is coming up on September 10th. It's from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. in person in Northeast Pennsylvania. I'm going to drop the link. I did earlier today, but I'll drop it again in a few minutes in the comments. It's 30% off until August 31st. So it's only $42 until then. It's for cancer patients, cancer survivors, cancer supporters. So really anybody who has a connection perspective on cancer, which is pretty much everyone. So we invite you to come share your story, come feel inspired, come support others, come be supported by others. So we hope you can come. It's going to be a magical event. Also, Brian Sullivan, who was diagnosed in 2021 with mantle cell lymphoma, is going to be the guest for the first ever in-person episode of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer, which is going to be part of that day on September 10th. And it will also be live streamed as well. But on that day, the first ever in-person episode. So there's that. Okay, the last thing, and I know our guest is waiting in the background. Like, am I ever going to get on this show? Seriously, you invited me on the show, and he's like, seriously, what's going on? Okay, last thing. I really want to thank our sponsors for this event, the in-person event that's coming up. Pinky Swear Foundation, Russ Hedge, Veronica Jeans, and X Cures are all sponsors of the event. I will put information in the comments. First, I just want to play a really quick video from Pinky Swear Foundation, and then our guest, you are going to come on the show next. You really are.
It was amazing how quickly they got back to us and helped us with our mortgage, and we were so grateful to receive the orange envelope and to hear about Mitch's story and the gift card to help with gas and groceries and everything that we needed. And the whole time, we've continually, Pinky Swears reached out to us and offered fun activities for our family, and the holiday party was just amazing with all the presents for our family, and we've just been overwhelmed by their kindness and generosity. It's been great.
So thank you.
An amazing organization.
Yes, definitely. And Erica Campbell, who's going to be the official new co-host starting on August 2nd, is the executive director of that organization. So shout out to Erica Campbell, shout out to Pinky Swear Foundation and all the sponsors. But Nancy Barrows, who is our guest for tonight?
We have a wonderful guest tonight, and that's Enrico Mastroianni. Enrico's dad passed from cancer, and Enrico was also one of the candidates for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's Man and Woman of the Year Philanthropic competition in Northeast Pennsylvania, and he won the Community Involvement Award.
Yes, so let's bring Enrico on the screen right now. Hello,
hey,
Enrico.
How are you guys? How you doing?
Hey.
Thanks
Welcome
for having
to
me.
The show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful.
I was not upset that you were talking, by the way. It was a great message. I think it was very important information, and I was patiently waiting. No problem.
I appreciate it. And Enrico, I'm so excited you're on the show tonight because we were both candidates to be for Man and Woman of the Year here in Northeast Pennsylvania. And I have gotten to meet very few of the guests on this show.
Yeah.
I've gotten to meet my sister, who is a guest on the show, and you. I mean, I've met Nancy in person, but I think you're the only other guest.
I'm honored. That's awesome. It was great getting to know you through that process, Tim. I think we shared a great experience together there, and I'm glad that you asked me to come and follow up on the show with you.
Likewise, I'm excited you're here also. So before we dive into the conversation, I just want to say hello to some of the people who are tuning in, and there are lots of people tuning in, so we'll say hello to some of them.
To be all over the place. It doesn't work.
Yes, Chris Hennessy is here. Welcome, Chris. It's great to see you. James Patrone is here, former guest of the show. Welcome back, James. Mark Kageyama, also guest co-host. Welcome back, Mark. It's great to see you. Marielle is here. She says, good evening to all. Charlene is here. She says, hey, Enrico.
Hi.
Some love for Enrico in the comments. Yeah.
Yes. Ellen says, Enrico in the
Hi,
house.
Ellen.
Welcome. Bill Bradford is here. Yay, PA. Shout out to PA.
Woo-hoo. Shout out to Flat Billy. Hey, I don't know. Bill Bradford, I'm going to be really close in September.
Yes. Yes, you are.
So all these possibilities.
That's true. Stefan is here. He says, Mark. Oh, he's saying hello to Mark. There you go. Always so supportive of Tim's efforts. Thanks for being here, Stefan. Yes. Thank you all who are here. We appreciate everyone who's showing up tonight. So Enrico, are you ready to dive into the conversation?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. So Enrico, one of your connections to cancer is that your dad had cancer. When he was diagnosed, what kind of effect did cancer have on his body? And when was he diagnosed?
So he was diagnosed was in the summer of 2001. So it was interesting that, it had just been 20 years when I was being asked to be in this campaign that he had passed. So it was in the middle of the summer, towards August, that he was, really suffering. And what we found was, what started out as kind of like a pain in his elbow and tingling down his hand kind of turned into numbness in his lower body, to the point where within, I would say, probably less than a week, he was going from, walking on his own gingerly to needing to be helped to walk. And it just got to the point where it was so aggressive that his doctors here in Scranton said, it was just something that they didn't feel comfortable. They thought he needed more assistance than what they could provide. And so, we were transported to the University of Pennsylvania, and, that's a great hospital, great doctors. And, they did a lot and everything that they could to try to help remediate. But, unfortunately, it was only in a short few months that he was able to live from that point on.
I'm, curious, like, when he was diagnosed, you've shared that with us, but like, what happened next? What was the plan for treatment?
Well, the idea was that they were going to try to, minimize the tumor if they could, and ultimately extract it. The challenge was that the tumor was in the base of his neck, so in the spinal cord, intertwined between the nerves, and those nerves were the ones that were being obviously attacked and pressed on, and that's why he was losing his feeling in his limbs, hands and legs, and arms. But it was a rough process. I mean, he was going through a ton of tests and physical therapy and all that, and the chemo and radiation, and really, once they tried to extract the tumor, and we knew the probability was very low that they were going to get everything because of the way that it was, infused in between all the nerves. I remember the doctor coming out of surgery and just telling us that, I did the best I could. And it was almost a way of him saying, there's still going to be a problem here. And I felt terrible because I remember when he came out of surgery and he was, in recovery, and just the pain and anguish and just total, the look of defeat, it just felt like this was an insurmountable thing. And no matter how hard he tried, he did. He went through the rehab and the therapy, and he went through the chemo and the radiation. And, there may have been some days that were better than others, but in terms of general progress, it was very limited. There wasn't much recovery taking place. So, it was just, it was tough, and it was a really hard thing for all of us. I'm the youngest of three. My sister, Angela, and her husband, Keith, live in the Harrisburg area, and they would be with us a lot. She spent weeks with us, my sister, and he would come up on weekends between work assignments. And my brother, who is now living in Ohio, but he was still in the area at the time, and so he was working but around a lot. And it was kind of a unique circumstance because I had a job, but right before he was diagnosed, I actually had left the job. And so I had a little bit of a gap in between, and it was just unique timing that I was available and I could be there to spend that time with him. So that was a benefit to me. Obviously, I wish I didn't see him in that way.
Of course. So it sounds like you and your dad were pretty close. Could you talk more about what your relationship was like with your dad, Enrico?
Yeah. No, we were best buds. That was I was a chip off the old block. I'm going to use all of his cliches. He joked with me when I was a young kid, and he had a bald spot on top of his head, and it was like to the point where there was like really nothing here, but he would still comb the little strings that were on top, and I would just what happened to your hair, Dad? Where's your hair? Why did he said, well, when you were born, you took it, and my dad had big curls and fluffy curls, and he claimed that once I was born, I took all those curls, and I had a big head of curls too. So we do, we act a lot alike. We look a lot alike. Now as a parent, I find myself repeating those cliches a lot with my children. And it's funny how, you realize that another one of his lines, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Right. So yeah, we were close. And the fact that I was the youngest by 6 years, my brother was 6 years older, my sister is 7 years older. And so I was around more. Like once they were gone out to college, I was there, and it was just me and my parents. And, my dad would drive me to school every day. I'll never forget my first sprained ankle. I was playing football and got our center got blocked on his back and rolled over my ankle. And Dad had to actually, in the morning, I didn't think it was that bad because you're on adrenaline. And in the morning, I woke up and I couldn't lift my leg. It was so painful. And he actually, lifted me up out of the bed, carried me to the car, and drove me to the emergency room. And we went and got checked. And he was just there for me all the time, no matter what, at every game, at every event. He wasn't much for the spotlight, wasn't an outspoken guy. He kind of stood by and listened and watched a lot. But I knew he was there, and that made a difference for me.
I listening to you tell the story and imagining, what it was like to see your dad deteriorate. It almost seems like this next question, my heart, I can't even entertain the thought for a moment, quite frankly. So you're incredibly strong and brave. I know what you've been through. And so it seems like this next question may be obvious, but I don't want to assume anything. Mm-hmm. What prompted you to be a candidate for the Man and Woman of the Year Philanthropic competition with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society?
Yeah, that's actually a really good question. Because I was reluctant at first to do it. I was actually asked by a friend from high school. Her son had been a leukemia survivor, and he, when he was very, very young, he was diagnosed, and after a certain amount of time, he was in remission and cancer free, and it was just one of those things when you were. This is almost 15, 17 years ago now. And we were a lot younger then and didn't have children yet. And you see one of your friends who has a child who's suffering, and it was devastating. I remember our whole community was like, just, what can we do to help? And so when she reached out to me, and I think it had a lot to do with, my current position, I'm the head men's basketball coach at Marywood University in Scranton, PA. And I had done a lot with the university and with my team with fundraising, social media presence. We do a lot with, just putting our word out there, putting our voice out there. And so I think my friend Colleen had an inkling that I might be pretty good at this. And she said, look, you're exactly what we're looking for. The type of person that engages with the community, gets the word out there, has a good following, can rally the troops, so to speak. And so, because it was her asking me, I felt compelled to entertain it. And so it was tough because we were in the middle of our season. It was like late October, early November, and we start practice October 15th. And once we're in season mode, it's like hard for me to do anything else. So all of our fundraising stuff and anything else happens before or after the season. So I took some time on it. I got through some of the season, and then I got to talking to some other people about it. And, my advisors, general advisors that I've used all my life, family and friends, and just everybody's different opinion. And I can honestly tell you, probably more than not, people said, I don't think you should get involved because you don't have time for this. I have 3 children. I have a lot going on with the team, and, it's just a lot of stuff. And so, against everybody's requests, I met with Pam Formica, Tim, as you know, one of our directors, and she kind of eased my concerns a little bit. Really talked about, team, building a team and getting people to help you. And, I was really not sure what my why was yet at that point. Okay. And I think that's why I was having a hard time jumping in, because I knew I wanted to help, because Colleen asked me, but, Colleen really didn't need that help anymore. Right. And I knew that there have been a lot of people in my lifetime that have been affected by cancer. And I knew I wanted my family, my children, to see me do something for someone else and get nothing in return from it. Right. I thought that was important. So
yes,
once Pam and I had that one-on-one, and she kind of really, started asking me questions, this story of my dad and his circumstance came out, and I literally came to tears talking to Pam, and she paused, and she just looked, and she said, I think you found your why, and so yeah, it was hard to come to, and I'm glad that I did. It was a great experience.
How your why often finds you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That resonates with me too, Enrico, because I struggled with my why also, because I'm a cancer survivor. Yeah. So I bring that perspective, but I didn't want the campaign to be about me. As right. Everybody on my team knows, that came up right away. I was like, I do not want the spotlight. And it's called the Man and Woman of the Year, right? So Enrico, I'm curious, what was the most uplifting, and also on the flip side, the most challenging for you being a candidate for in the Man and Woman of the Year competition?
Yeah, I guess, like you said, the most challenging thing was trying not to make it about you. I think that was really hard. And, I had my own personal why, but I wasn't really ready to share it with the world. I think that was really the difficulty for me. Was I was kind of like trying to, again, rally the troops, get everybody to support me, because I've had them in my corner all these years. And, so many people are out there supporting Marywood University and our team. And so I thought, I've got a good enough following to do this, but it really wasn't until I started to, share my story of my perspective on cancer and my personal experience with it, and how it directly impacted me, my mother, my sister, and my brother, and, and how it's affected the future of my life. Right. And, my dad, had his ailment, his illness when I had just turned 25. He passed. It was in August, the day before my birthday. He actually had the surgery, and then it was November 18th he passed. And so it was a very short amount of time from that point on that we had together. But it was such a powerful and devastating time in my life that, naturally we suppress it. Right. I didn't want to talk about it. And then you have children, and you feel like, God, I really wish he was here right now. Didn't didn't see me buy a house, never saw me buy a car, like, never saw me coach a game. Okay. My dad was the one who kind of pushed me into coaching while he was in the hospital, and could barely use his limbs. He was looking through the classified ads and saw a 7th and 8th grade basketball coaching position at St. Paul's School here in Scranton. And he said, I think that you should do this. I think you should try to do this. And so he pushed me into it and I started it. And once I did, I was in love. This was it. This is what I had to do for the rest of my life. So, but the day before I was supposed to coach my first game, my dad, had kind of slipped into a little bit of a different state. He and my mom had decided to stop the treatments. It wasn't getting better and he was getting worse. And we had just agreed to go to hospice. But he didn't make it there. I couldn't coach my first game because my dad was, on morphine and incoherent. And, I was in the room, stayed the night with my mom and the next day, the rest of our family came and sometime in the afternoon, I want to say it was almost about 2:00 in the afternoon. And I'll never forget it because we were in the room, my mom and brother and sister and I, and we were holding his hand and my mother was basically telling him, it's okay. You can go. We're okay. I'm sorry. And right after, it felt like he took his last breath. You could just see a beam of light come from the window. And it was just kind of like everyone felt that peace moment. It's still obviously hard to talk about, but this campaign and getting my story out there and his story out there, it's been cathartic for me. It's been helpful for my children to learn about me more and about their grandfather. So there's been a lot more good than bad that's come of it for sure. I hope I answered your question. I got off tangent, Tim. I warned you I'm going to do that sometimes.
No, story. I appreciate you sharing all of that.
It's your story. You tell it perfectly. So no sorry. Gosh. Yes, Bob, I'm not crying. You're crying. I got you on that one. You started to answer this, but in participating in the LLS Philanthropic Challenge and starting to speak about your dad's journey, your journey with him, what changed for you? Like what?
Well, I think I finally realized that making the story public was going to change the campaign. And I put a lot of pressure on myself, and most people do, but as a coach, you're judged on wins and losses and success and failure. Right. So, I knew that I was behind. I knew I wasn't performing at the level that I expected of myself. And, Pam and Valerie and Vicky would always tell me, you're fine. You're doing great. Don't worry. Everything's good. But, personally, I felt like I could have done more. And I think what really held things up was how late in the game I decided to jump in, right? I didn't really agree to do this until it was probably early February. And the campaign started March 7th. And I didn't even have a team when we had our first kickoff meeting on the 7th. I actually set up a team meeting a week later and I had like 3 or 4 people on the Zoom call to learn about what it meant to be on my team. And everybody said, yeah, I'll be on your team. But then it was like really hard to get everybody on the team, So I found like I had to really involve the whole community. And that's where the whole community involvement award came in was I reached out to one of our sports writers here at the Scranton Times. And I said, not sure if you saw this, I'm doing this. I think it would be helpful if you might share this with your colleagues if somebody wants to pick up the story. Marywood University, our president, Sister Mary Persico, she really supported me and really, backed it. She wanted people to get involved in this. And I didn't want to tamper with Marywood's Giving Day. That actually was one of the big challenges I faced So our giving day is a, 1 day annual day of giving to the university for whatever, department or team you want to sponsor and support. So it's a huge day for men's basketball. Like we've gone up every single year. I've promoted it like crazy. And so every year we're going up probably $1,000 each year, more than we did the year before. And so that was on March 31st. So I was like, I can't really promote and push LLS until I get through that, because I don't want to confuse people about where they should be giving money to what I'm asking for. Right. So,
of course.
So that even slowed it up a little bit more. And so once I got through giving day, then I called on Sister Mary and I said, I really could use some help with this. And so she, she kind of impacted that with marketing, asking them to do a story and put it on the webpage. And, she obviously, put me in touch with some other people too, to try to help us. So once I did that, and then I got, Scranton Times involved, Eyewitness News did a story, Fox 56 Sports did a story. And all of a sudden I was getting phone calls from people that were people I had never known, that had been impacted by my story and wanted to help. And so, I'm gracious. I mean, I are grateful. They were so gracious. They wanted to get involved and they didn't have any clue why. Just, they had either been affected, they were a survivor, they knew somebody who had been affected, and they felt some kind of connection to my story and wanted to help me. So it really, I never would have hit my mark if I hadn't asked for that kind of help and really involved the whole community.
That's incredible, Enrico. And everyone, we're here on Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer. Our guest tonight is Enrico Mastroianni. He won the Community Involvement Award for the Man and Woman of the Year competition of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society here in Northeast Pennsylvania. And we're talking about his dad's story tonight and his perspectives on cancer, Enrico's perspectives on cancer. So Enrico, we were talking about your dad before. So Enrico, what are some of the lessons that you learned from your dad?
He was a hardworking man. He made a lot of sacrifices for his family. When I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, my brother and sister and I were all there. My dad was living in Ohio, in Cleveland, when he met my mom at a wedding of a friend, a mutual, Italian families. Everybody knows everybody, right? So they were at a wedding, they met, and he was already set up in Cleveland. And so when they got married, naturally, she was moving to Cleveland. And so they were there, like I said, through all of us being born. And finally, when I was probably about 2, my mom was really kind of like homesick, needed her parents, and wanted to go back to Scranton. And so we did. We moved back to Scranton. My dad gave up a really good job with White Motors, which is now part of the Ford Motors Company. But he had a manager position, really good setup situation. And he came back and ended up having to sell cars because he just needed to get a job, and so he did that for quite a while. And then finally, he realized, he's not earning a steady enough income doing this. My brother and sister both went to private colleges. My sister was at the University of Scranton. My brother at Juniata College. He, when I came around, he knew it was going to be hard. And he's like, you're going to have to go to a state school. So let's make sure we're picking the right one. So ultimately, I chose Penn State, which I thought was the best one. And so it worked out well for me. But sometime during my brother and sister's time in college, he changed his career. He was in his, late 40s probably. And he decided to get a job with the state. I mean, he had to obviously take a test and apply, and got a job with the State Correctional Institute at Waymart in Waymart, PA. And so he was a security officer, patrolling, making sure that the inmates were on time and on task. And it was not such a great situation. It wasn't safe. Let's just say that. It was a prison for the criminally insane. And so, he had a very difficult time with it. It was a 40 to 45-minute commute from our house. And then when I was in high school, I was playing basketball, obviously, and I had played multiple sports, but by sophomore year, I was kind of zeroed in on basketball. And so he didn't want to miss my games. And so he switched his schedule to work third shift. He would come to my games at 6:30, 7 o'clock. He would stay and wait for me to come out of the locker room to say goodbye, probably about 9:30 or so. And then he would get in his car and he would drive 45 minutes to work, and work from 11 o'clock until 7 in the morning. And then he would drive home and sleep for a few hours, get up around 3 and do it all over again. So it was, as a kid, you don't always understand that sacrifice and what that was. You just kind of expect dad's going to be there. This is what it is. But now as a parent, I realize, that's how we live. We have to make some sacrifices, and sometimes, your children will understand, and sometimes they won't. But you do the best you can to try to make it better for them. And real quick, no, I just want to also put it out there that you asked me what I learned from my dad. So sacrifice is the main thing. But he was also a bit of a jokester, so I'd like to think I got some of that from him too. So
I'm sure you did. I think, I reflected the sacrifices my parents made. Maybe at the time I didn't recognize them for what they were, but I think ultimately as we grow and have our own experiences, we start to really understand and realize the love that comes from. Mm-hmm. You've been talking, and I know you're hardworking, and I know you're busy, and you've got a coaching position, you've got your family, you're all over the place. How did you balance your day-to-day responsibilities with the responsibilities of the LLS Philanthropic Challenge? It's a 10-week challenge.
Yeah. Well, 10-week if you start on time.
First tip is don't start on time, and you don't have to sustain it for long. Okay.
No, that is not a tip at all. No, you really would be better off to start on time. No, to be honest, for me, it was a major challenge, and the biggest, the biggest volume of my work on the campaign was really the last 6 weeks. In the last 6 weeks, when I say we, I mean me and my wife and my sister-in-law and my sister and my friend's wife, and whoever was willing to say, hey, I can do something for you, they were in it. We were doing it. And so it was the last 6 weeks, and I really just committed myself to that. Mostly I leaned heavily on my assistant coaches to try to help with the day-to-day operations of the team. And I'm grateful to them for that. I'm grateful to my athletic director, Pat Murphy, who really kind of gave me some space to do what I needed to do with this. Again, through the support of Sister Mary Persico and her, involvement with what I was doing or encouragement. I think it was kind of understood that, look, if there's something that Enrico needs to be involved in, he'll be here for it. But let's give him some time to do this. Let's let him have some space to do this. And so, I was here, I was in the office, I was on the road, I was back and forth a lot. So, and today you can work from anywhere, right? So if I was trying to do something that was, say, an email campaign, I'm doing that from home. But in the meantime, I'm texting with my players or some coaches or, anybody that was asking for information or needed help with something. So we maintained our regular speed, but it was definitely it was a challenge. It was not easy to do.
I'm sure it's not. It takes a lot of dedication and support. It sounds like you are blessed to be surrounded by a lot of unconditional love.
Yeah, that's for sure. And our family is unique in a way that we're probably, and I don't want to assume what other people do, but I know I grew up with our family being our bond and our relationships. My brother and sister were my, best friends, but it was, in an Italian family, it was first sister, second mother, and first brother, second father. So they helped raise me, and, we're tight, and those bonds will never be broken. And I hope my children will adopt that same thing. Sometimes my girls are a little too close in age to see it right now, but we'll see.
Sure. So Enrico, what has been the biggest silver lining for you from the perspective of your dad's son in his from his cancer journey?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say there's a silver lining with all the suffering, but I guess, for me, it has been this campaign and being able to get that story out. There, and I'm sure some of you will understand this, the listeners, the viewers, but the first instinct, and I would put yourself in 25 years old, not married, no home, like living at home still, and very limited responsibilities, right? So the first feeling is anger. The first feeling is doubt, right? You question things and you start to wonder, well, what is it all for? Why are we doing this? Why did he have to go through all that? Why him? Why me? You even turn it personally on you, like, why me? Why did I have to have this experience? My best friend, for now probably almost, well, not 40 years, but probably about 38 years now, he had a similar experience. His dad passed during our freshman year in college, and it was devastating. I mean, like, he was young. I mean, a young man, and it was just one of those things that we had kind of a bond with. And our dads, ironically, our dads would carpool with us, like who was taking which group to school that day. So, and his dad would always take me with them when they went to basketball games at like local colleges. They had a nephew that played at a nearby college, and so he would take me to games with them and to football games at the high school, and then afterwards we'd go out to dinner and I'd sit with the family. And eventually, when I had just turned 21, they invited me to go to the beach with them, after his dad had passed, and he went with his siblings and his mom still. And, I went with them. So we were like growing up like family. And so I had been aware that this is a possibility, right? But you never think it's going to hit you.
Yes.
It's never going to happen to you. And so once it did, and since, really, I mean, we've been in this thing together, ever since. And so that's been really helpful, to have a bond with him and to have that corresponding experience, right? But the main thing for me, the silver lining, is that I hope my children have learned more about their grandfather and about their father, because of this circumstance.
So it's just, I mean, every story that I hear is compelling. And of course, it's wonderful to have someone who truly understands. And I just can't wait till we can all bond over the fact that we don't have to worry about this disease anymore.
Yeah.
For you, though, I have one last question, Enrico.
Sure.
What do you believe has been the biggest impact on others, maybe even outside of your family, of sharing your story, your dad and your journey, and about this thing that you never intended to really share with the world?
Well, I guess I'll go back to the people that have approached me. Not just those that have donated, right? Like, there's been a lot of people, I want to help your cause, I want to support you. Where can I donate? What can I do? But I think the ones who see you at your daughter's softball game and come up to you, go out of their way to come find you and say, I read your story in the paper. I was just so touched by it. I really think, it's such a special circumstance, and I hope that everything works well for you. I hope you achieve your goals, and the ones who, like, were not even thinking about donating, helping, getting involved in anything. And all of a sudden, because my story was out there and I started to spread the news, my last big event was a benefit we did. And people were telling me for the whole duration of everything, don't do another benefit thing. Everybody does benefits. And then, people can't go, they can't attend. They don't want to just show up, and like, it's not such a big deal. And I did one event, I did a cornhole event, and I was grateful that I had some support at that, but it didn't turn out the numbers we were expecting it to do. It was a Wednesday night. Those with children had a hard time getting out. And, it was kind of a tough circumstance, but we did a good event. Right. And then after that, I felt so discouraged. I felt like I'm never going to hit my goal. This isn't going to work. That was on April 17th. Right. So May 18th was our gala, right, Tim?
Yes.
So essentially a month away from the gala.
Mm-hmm.
And the next day or 2 days later, I said to my wife, I'm going to do it. I have to put something together. And so I spent the next couple of days, like, just going crazy, trying to find connections to people and anyone that would help me. We ended up having a benefit at a local restaurant, a Union Craft House restaurant in Taylor, PA. And people just came out in droves. I mean, like if they couldn't be there. And again, that's where the social media and the news and the newspaper helped, because once I knew I was going to do this event, I said, I have to get this word spread farther than my reach. Right. So that's really when it took off. And if they couldn't be at the event, they donated something, whether it was gift basket, money, bought tickets to the raffles, whatever. And it ended up working. I mean, we reached and we surpassed our goal, and it was just really a special experience. So.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's been another healthy discussion for me. So I appreciate that.
Good. Yes. Thank you so much, Enrico. It's been so great to hear have you share your dad's story with us and reminisce about the campaign with you. And
that was a fun experience, Tim, and it was great meeting you and your family there. And, and I should say, I want to let all of your viewers know, I'm sure that they already do know how generous you are, but, Tim kind of, I want to say that you kind of sparked me a little bit. I was kind of feeling in the dumps a little bit, and all of a sudden a donation showed up on my account from Tim, and it was just like a good luck, keep up the good work kind of thing. And that little boost of encouragement really meant a lot to me. I just wanted to tell you that out loud. And I also want to just thank all the viewers. I see all the comments, but I'm sorry, I didn't have my phone open. I didn't want to have any distractions. So I haven't commented back to anybody, but thank you all for watching and for listening. And, I appreciate the support, and I'm grateful to you, Tim and Nancy, for having this discussion with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Truly.
Yes. Thank you, Enrico. I'm going to take you off the screen if you want to hang out for a few minutes, so we can thank you afterwards. But thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for trusting us with your story. It's always such a privilege. Like, it really, I'm so grateful for the opportunities. Thank you, Tim, for inviting me on more than once to be a part of the show.
Of course, Miss Guest Co-host, Miss future keynote speaker at
a lot to put on a sash. Future keynote speaker at the first in-person showing up perspectives. It's going to go all the way around.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to grow or something.
Yeah, I'm going to have to take out I don't know. Maybe I'll get wings or something. I have time.
We'll have to figure that out.
Yes.
The possibilities are endless. You could just be super creative, right?
Absolutely. We're looking for ideas if anyone has them.
Yes, we're always looking for ideas. Let us know in the chat. Let us know your creative ideas. But thanks again, Enrico. We so appreciate you being here, sharing your dad's story, your perspectives, your story. And we are always looking for guests who want to be on the show, whether you're a cancer survivor, family member has passed of cancer, author, nonprofit organization, medical professional, anyone with a perspective connection to cancer. We would love to have you come on the show and share your story. So if you're interested in doing that, please send me a direct message, and would love to have a conversation with you to do that. Nancy Barrows, who is our guest next week on Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer?
Next week, there's going to be an amazing conversation with Boyd Dunleavy. I'm going to have a conversation with Boyd about his journey from blood cancer to the Boston Marathon. So let's all show up and support Boyd and each other. And I also know that there are a lot of people out there that thank you for the support and the kind words and the comments. And if we're not yet connected, please reach out and connect. There's always room for wonderful, amazing humans in my community. So please do.
Yes, definitely connect with Nancy. And thanks again, Nancy, for being guest co-host.
My pleasure.
Always appreciate it. And thank you everyone for tuning in to another episode of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer. We're going to go out the same way that we come in every week to the show. And now it's time to dance.